Show you from last September. It's similar to what we saw today, a semi-truck burning on I-65 South near the Kennedy Bridge on a rainy day, and in this case the driver unfortunately passed away.
So we've been here before, and not even just once or twice. One of the most recent crashes in this area happened on Derby Day. A car hauler overturned, vehicles fell off and blocked traffic, and then the very next day, a semi-driver had to be rescued from his truck as it was dangling over the interstate. All of this is bringing up the question of safety at this spot on I-65. WDRB's Dalton, Godbey, and Marcus Green with that part of the story. Guys?
Bet for the people who are watching this at home, many of them are thinking, this just happened back in May. What's the deal with this particular section of 65 or the Kennedy Bridge? Marcus and I have been going through crash reports from the state to try and figure out if there's some sort of story here. Marcus, you have learned that this has happened several times in the last couple of years in that particular section.
Right. It's way too early to really understand whether or not there's a structural or design flaw with this part of the roadway, but what we do know is in this very specific area where today's crash happened, we've seen some crashes in recent years. Last year there were 6 alone, there were 2 before today, so 8 of the 15 that have happened in the last 4 years in this area happened in the last 2 years, and of those recent crashes, 3 were injuries, 1 was fatal last September. That's before today. So these are the types of things that we'll all be looking at, the state will be looking at to determine whether or not there are issues that need to be addressed, striping, other markings that might help to make this safer. But really right now, we don't know other than just we have seen a specific concentration of crashes in this area.
I think a lot more information will come to light over the coming days, weeks, and months. Today, the focus being on the safety of that driver who miraculously jumped out of the vehicle, we were told, and sustained only a couple of scratches or some injuries to his lower part of his body. He's being treated at the hospital, but really just a miracle that the driver of this survived after seeing those images and those flames and that smoke.
When you and I saw this, we witnessed it happen from across the river in Indiana. We both said to each other, there has to be serious injuries or even a fatality in this crash. And as you say, the fact that that didn't happen is really a testament to the driver getting out and to the first responders being on scene. You know, we've seen some crashes in this area. We've seen some dramatic crashes in this area. We've not seen anything with the type of fire and smoke. At least I've not seen that in my 20 years covering transportation in this community. So really a testament that no one was hurt today.
That was just a couple of hours ago. Marcus and I were reporting on a different story, unrelated, about the Kennedy Bridge, and found ourselves on the Indiana side of the Ohio on the 7th floor of a condo that looks out over the Ohio River. That's when, just moments after our interview had ended, we look over and see this plume of smoke rising from the area of the Kennedy Bridge. It was astonishing, a little bit of fear in there for the safety of who might have been involved, and then it felt like a weight was lifted when we learned that that driver was okay. Hours later, we look on top of the bridge, and there's a couple people from the state, highway officials, who are looking at that crash site, maybe trying to determine whether or not there's any structural damage.
Right, just a few minutes ago, Kentucky Transportation Cabinet officials told me that they are going to be looking at all of these types of things that I mentioned earlier, including reviewing crash reports to try to find any trends that might indicate issues that need to be addressed. So these will be the things we'll be watching in the days and weeks to come to really make sure that this part of I-65 South is indeed safe for drivers.
Lots of information to come out soon. When we find those answers, get that information, we'll bring it to you as quickly as we can, guys.
When the state is doing that review, I wonder what kind of trend the weather will play in those crashes, because anecdotally remembering, many of them happened when there was wet roads. All right, Dalton, Marcus, thank you so much for your reporting today.